Hi, my name is Johan. I'm 58 years old. I was diagnosed type 1 diabetic 11 years ago. I was told that I would have to inject insulin for the rest of my life unless I want to die. Today marks day number 1868 days since I've last injected insulin.
Before the days of insulin, if you had diabetes, type 1 diabetes, you died.
Yep, haven't done it for a while. So in 2001 we moved to England from South Africa. I was working for Anglo American South Africa and they were selling the hospital where I worked, so I was looking for either opening a new practice in South Africa or doing something like moving to the other side of the world. And Boots at the time was advertising for dentists, so I applied and I got the job. And then we came to England, myself, my wife, 3 kids, of which the youngest one was born just before we moved, so she was 3 months old when we moved. Boots was going to pay for the relocation for if I stay with them for 2 years, so that was the plan, to come and see if we like it for 2 years. If we didn't, we could go back. And here we still are, 21 years later.
Oh my goodness, Poppy, that was amazing!
So here's a recent photo of my girls, my youngest Anke, Andrea in the middle, and my eldest Inge.
He was really unhealthy and wasn't really aware of what he was eating and didn't really care much about being healthy.
I was a smoker, smoked at least 20 cigarettes a day. I did no exercise.
I never saw my dad do a single bit of exercise.
Diet was, not great, but not too bad, I guess. I never really checked what I ate, so I would never check the nutritional value of anything. If I wanted to eat something, I would eat it.
He was definitely a huge fan of takeaways.
I would cut down on sugar if I feel my trousers are a bit tight. But yeah, I never really knew what I was putting in my mouth. Boots closed their dentistry business in 2005, and then I had to find something else.
I have huge respect for my dad. I mean, wow, he moved his entire family to the UK from South Africa, worked 24/7.
And 2 years later, decided to open my own practice.
Started his own business, and all whilst providing for the entire family.
And I was working all the hours of the day to make this work.
I could definitely see the stress was building up over the years, but he would never want to worry any of us, so he would never ever dare say anything. But after a while, I could see something wasn't right.
I had a really dry mouth and really tired all the time. My vision was going, and then I realized there's a problem. I saw an optician, and she said to me, if my vision deteriorates anymore, I wouldn't be able to drive. And my blood sugar was really, really high. It was 38, I think, at the time, where normal is between 4 and 8. And she said, often if your blood sugar is really high, the sugar will accumulate in your lens, which will distort your vision, so I need to sort that out first. And that started 10 days before I was admitted to hospital, almost in a coma. It suddenly dawned on me that maybe I am diabetic. I saw a GP that day in the afternoon, and she tested my urine. There was ketones in my urine. That is already diabetic ketoacidosis, which will then lead to a coma. So she said to me to get myself to A&E straight away and don't drive. And when I got there, they were waiting for me with an insulin drip. Overnight I had this infusion of insulin, and then the next morning my sugar was down to 16 and I could come home. Type 1 at my age anyway is normally diagnosed when by chance pick up that your blood sugar is really high, or when you're already in a coma. So I guess I would have been in a coma. There was somebody next to me in the ward. Could hear the consultant saying to him he needs to stop smoking if he still wants to live. And at that point I already made the decision that I was going to stop smoking, and I was just thinking that the guilt that you feel about what you could have done to your family, well, it could have been a lot worse.
Type 1 diabetes is a young adult, juvenile onset diabetes. Traditionally up to the age of maybe 30, 35 will sometimes get it. It's an autoimmune condition where the body's mechanisms for fighting infection get misdirected. So they get misdirected at the cells which produce insulin in the pancreas, and they attack those cells. It comes on quite suddenly, it comes on very severely. If it's not picked up pretty rapidly, it can be fatal and always requires insulin to treat it. If they don't get rapid treatment with insulin, they will die, and they will die quickly. But picked up early, treated properly, nowadays people will usually have a fairly normal lifespan with it, and with various adjustments can lead a pretty normal life.
So I came out of hospital and I suddenly realized I had to change my whole life. I decided I'm not smoking anymore, so I might just as well try and get fit.
Johan came to me, said he needed to get fit.
I always really wanted to get fit. I remember the first session with Ricky. It was an hour long and I came home, I couldn't walk up the stairs.
In the early days he appeared to be like most other clients. He was quite quiet, but he just seemed to get on with things.
I realised that this is going to take hard work, but I was determined. I trained with Ricky once a week and then soon realised every week I go back, I'm kind of back at square one, so I would have to do something else in between.
As the months went by, you could see he was progressing, but he needed more sessions in order to get him to the next level.
And I joined the gym and I went there twice a week.
He started doing extra sessions with me. He was doing classes and also extra workouts at the gym. As his fitness progressed, you could see that he needed more challenges.
One of my daughters challenged me to do a Tough Mudder, so I asked Ricky to get me Tough Mudder ready.
So I started to introduce more running and gradually more intense sessions. Yeah, it was a big thing for him back then. The distance was more than it is now. It was harder and he wasn't quite yet the machine that he is these days.
Doing an event like that was really big for me, and it was the feeling of accomplishment was really good.
He was looking fitter, feeling fitter, and I could see now that he was really starting to get into it.
The next challenge for me would be to lose my belly fat.
So this is when we really started to hone in on things.
So Ricky then suggested that we look at my diet. He also said that he wants to tweak my diet so that it's sustainable.
I got him to keep a food diary that we would check weekly, and I would just focus on one aspect at a time, change things here and there.
Maybe cut down on this or that.
Or maybe substitute this for that. We measured his body fat.
My body fat percentage went down from 24%, but from there on it just came down and down and down. At the lowest it was 7%.
Over time you could see he was getting leaner and leaner.
I felt better and better and less insulin.
And what we found was the leaner he was, the fitter he was getting, the less and less insulin he needed to inject.
So I had two different insulin injections. One was a short-acting insulin, then there was a long-acting insulin. You inject once a day. At one point I injected 21 units until it was 1 unit, which is ridiculous. So I just stopped injecting it. And my blood sugar was still the same the next morning. We went to LA to do another Tough Mudder day. This is my second one. And I stopped the long-acting insulin just before we went. July that year, I decided to eat a high-carb meal and see what happens without injecting. And I tested my blood sugar 2 hours later and it was normal. And yeah, stopped injecting insulin.
A bit more narrow. Head forward of the hands, one.
Type 2 diabetes is something that you get adult onset, A lot of people initially have minimal symptoms, and there are probably a lot of people out there right now who've got type 2 diabetes and don't even know it. There are generally 3 factors. One is the genetic makeup, one is getting older, and the third is weight and lack of fitness. The target cells, the cells in the muscles, the cells in the fat layers and so on, become resistant to insulin. So the body is still producing insulin, but the insulin isn't producing the effects that it needs to. Typically, type 2 diabetes can be treated with a combination of diet, sometimes oral medications, and towards the extreme end, and sometimes people do require insulin for it. The blood in effect becomes more sticky, so it's associated with heart disease, strokes, associated with circulatory problems. So yeah, that kind of thing. Most people have pretty clearly type 1, or they will have type 2. However, it's now recognised that there is a bit of a mixed picture in some people. There is a spectrum between people who are maybe 90% type 2 with a little bit of type 1. At the other end of the scale, there are people who are 10% type 2, 90% type 1. And it's difficult to sort of tease out where somebody is in that spectrum until they've had the condition for a while, and it's been seen how treatments and other things affect their blood sugars and their general prognosis.
I think whether he's type 1, type 2 or type 1.5, what he's accomplished is remarkable, and you would hope that other diabetics would be motivated by what he's done. Unfortunately though, not everyone has had quite a positive reaction.
There was a lot of mixed reactions. A lot of people said congratulations and well done. And other people, especially type 1 diabetic, they almost made me feel like a fraud. And, oh, you're not type 1 diabetic, you're type 2. You were incorrectly diagnosed, and almost made me feel guilty about saying that I came off insulin. I was diagnosed type 1. I was on insulin for 7 years and I came off it. Mainly through exercise, but also diet.
You know, we never really felt this possible. It was just our aim to get him as healthy as we could using fitness and diet, and hopefully help to improve his situation.
My goal was never to get rid of type 1, because people don't get rid of type 1 diabetes. I just wanted to get fitter and leaner.
At first it is surprising when you find out about these reactions, but when you think about it, it is a natural human thing. The tendency is to think that they've been doing something wrong all this time, and the confusion and the disbelief that the years that they have suffered may have been avoided. So you can understand some resentment, and maybe they believe that they're not so lucky, and maybe in Johan's case, luck has been involved. But what I do know is he has done everything within his power to change his situation for the better. He has focused on the things he has control over.
I think I'm at the point now where I'm fit and I'm happy and I'm healthy. I just think even if you don't come off insulin, training and being physically strong and fit has so many health benefits. I stopped having to take painkillers for my backache. I came off my blood pressure medications. I was on 2 different blood pressure pills, used to have migraines. Came off that. There's so many health benefits that goes together with being fit and training. It's hard work, but it pays off.
I think by keeping his lifestyle going, he will improve his health in all sorts of ways. I think he's shown he's got the willpower to do it.
I could have accepted my fate and just keep injecting insulin and keep taking pills and feel sorry for myself. Diabetes saved my life, and that's how I think about it. I'm healthier now than I ever was in my life.
I would be long gone by now. It's some kind of devotion that brings me down.
sure at what point in my life I won't be able to do this anymore.
I will be
And I'll just carry on as long as I can.
no one.